Ken Thompson, leader of the Alliance for Freedom and Democracy. I keep wanting to see the AFD, but that's just, it's got nothing to do with the AFD, has it, Ken?
No, not at all. No. The Alliance for Democracy and Freedom, so the ADF it is, not the AFD. Still gets mixed up because they were getting bumped off recently. I think the AFD weren't they?
Yeah. A lot of them seem to be dying. Obviously, we start the first interview we do with the political leaders is very easy. There's no problems with it, and what we like to do is allow the leader in quite a long interview to lay out basic stall for people who are interested in politics and want to see alternatives for the democratic parties we have in power at present. So maybe you want to fill us in what the AFD, ADF, Alliance for Freedom and Democracy actually does. It's a relatively new party, isn't it, Ken? And you maybe want to set out your stall for what you guys do and what the background is.
Sure, yeah. Well, it was set up in 2019. It was incorporated as a business, and then as a political party, and we really kicked off, I think, 2020, right at really the start of COVID. When quite a number of us could sort of see through what was happening with COVID and Bill Gates being on the make and just all the nonsense that was going on. Dr. Tek Kong was the leader fairly early on in that.
You want to give us a wee bit of background about Tek as well, because it's quite interesting, because I think we'll speak to Tek ourselves. We were trying to speak to him before, and we'll speak to him just now. So maybe you want to. This is a leader for the UK.
Yep, Tek was a leader. He's actually now deputy leader, because he's got some duties to attend to in Australia. He's got a wee granddaughter there, so he's over spending a bit of time there just now. But he's a GP for 40 years or so in the NHS, and came up against this COVID stuff and the vaccines, and he was not particularly happy. I think he actually saw firsthand the results of what the vaccines were doing. Mm-hmm. So he called that out as soon as he saw it. He didn't agree with the kind of premise that they were bringing policies. Mm-hmm. So he spoke out against that. He had radio interviews. I think he was on Chat UK, one of the radio stations, one of the YouTube sort of stations, interview stations, and also wrote articles in the paper about the problems with it. And then he got into trouble, I think, with the GMC, and they were starting to give him hassle. He was kind of semi-retired anyway. Mm-hmm. But that kind of really finished off his career, I think. So he had to stop being a GP.
I don't think just him. I don't think just his career. I think they went through a number of different professionals in the medical society.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Doc Malik is another one. I think Cartland, Dr. Cartland, there's another one who got into trouble there as well. So that was his background. So medical background. He was originally Conservative. I think he was an advisor to the Andrew Lansley, who was the Health Secretary at one time. Or he was on his panel. Mm-hmm. He stood against Andrew Bridgen for the candidacy in Leicester for the Tory Party, and then so he was involved with that for a while, and then eventually ended up joining UKIP. And quite a number of our founders were from UKIP. Sid Pepper, who was a candidate, Ernie Warringer.
A bit like sorry for interrupting, the Social Democratic Party. A few of their guys are ex-UKIP as well, aren't they?
That's right, they are, yeah. So we had Mike Hookham, who's our president of the party, who was an MEP for a number of years. Ernie Warringer was our interim leader after Nigel Farage left. And we had Keith Lonsdale, who was in Northern Ireland, but he's not involved anymore. So that was the start of it, and then it just built from there. And I was with UKIP. I was chairman of UKIP in Fife for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, I think. Mm-hmm. And they ended into problems with their leadership at the time, where the 60% of the voters, the membership, voted in Richard Brain and then they wouldn't let him lead. They wouldn't let him in the office, I don't think.
Wow.
So it was just a huge debacle there. And also they were not saying anything about the COVID problems. And Tech was on to me about joining ADF, so I decided to join ADF at that point. So
where would you say, well, obviously we'll do a political compass test, but where would you say that you were as a political entity on the political spectrum?
Well, we call ourselves centre sensible, which I think is probably fair, because I think that the political spectrum has moved, whereas we probably haven't.
Yeah.
We've stayed the same, probably supporting some of Thatcher's policies back in the day.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on.
The whole political spectrum seems to have moved, shifted left in a Marxist direction.
Yeah,
hasn't
very
it?
much so. Yeah.
So we probably not changed.
Craig Houston, as a social democrat, has been described as far right, which is quite incredible. It's I think what you're just saying there is exactly correct, in the fact that the Overton window seems to be going from the very far left to the near left or the centre left, and anybody who's in the centre left is now this far right.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, these terms they've used them so much that they're really meaningless, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, what is the far right anyway?
Yeah.
We've got Hitler, who you'd probably say was far right.
Well, I would say he was a socialist. But
exactly. So who's the far right? Libertarians and anarchists, potentially.
Well, libertarians are the opposite of authoritarians. So, so what they would, from that point of view, a libertarian couldn't be a fascist or a Nazi because by dint of both of those ideologies being authoritarian, and libertarians being against authoritarianism and believe more in the empowerment of the individual and not the state. So that would be fascist libertarianism would be an oxymoron. In fact, Count Dankula covered that. It's like having a meat-eating vegan or a Ku Klux Klan member with a black wife. That was his jokes. And it seems a bit counterproductive. He said, you better do what you want or else. That's libertarian fascism. It was quite funny, quite entertaining, but it's not something that can be done. The far right would be probably nationalistic capitalism or national capitalism, whereas National Socialism is obviously a strain of the far left.
Yeah, I mean, you can arguably say that we've got a far-right government at the moment who are completely in bed with big business, industry. They're all in each other's pockets, the politicians and the businesses, scratching each other's backs, and the wee guy gets squeezed at the bottom. We're losing any kind of power or influence or justice or anything. Just getting pushed around.
And is the Alliance for Freedom and Democracy a slightly libertarian, centrist libertarian party? He certainly comes across that way.
I would say so, yeah. I would say we're definitely for the power, so to empower the individual, to reduce the size of the state, low taxes, get them off our back. Very much so, yeah. I mean, we know we probably need some services which are, come out of taxation, but they're making such a mess of it. It's so corrupt that everything they touch is just a disgrace, mess.
Yeah. It's just they seem to be trying to squeeze the pips out of the lemon, don't they? There seem to be the raison d'etre. A 30 million black hole or a 20 billion black hole that wasn't there by the OBS. The guy's just resigned today. It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, again, is this just not some narrative they make up to tell us why they have to tax us even more than we're already taxed? We were the highest taxation levels ever, apparently as a percentage of GDP, up at 40-odd%, or is it more than that, 43% or something? Never been taxed higher as a society, and they just keep wanting to add more on. They've not got enough.
In Scotland, there is a 3 pence deficit that you can actually set up where you can actually reduce or increase taxation by up to 3 pence. Would the ADF's objective be to reduce taxation to the minimum and actually gradually over time reduce it in stages so that people are paying the minimum amount of taxes rather than not the massive taxes done by the Westminster, as well as we have higher taxes in Scotland because of the left-wing SNP?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, good point actually, which actually makes us the highest tax part of the United Kingdom as well, because we've taken up that 3% higher taxation rate as opposed to England. So we would definitely want to reverse that, and well, not reverse it, but we'll reverse it if we can do that immediately. But take it back down and reduce the taxation level, because to us, that's what encourages businesses to invest, enables them to make profit, enables them to survive and thrive. And small businesses are really being squeezed, from all directions at the moment. Everything that this government do is another attack really on small businesses, and it gets to the point where it's just not worth the hassle. That's where they're pushing everybody.
They're really job destroying with this high tax, high spend society that they've got us into, which they had said prior to them actually setting up or starting when the Labour Party started about 18 months ago, that they weren't going to tax and spend, and they basically lied on their manifesto.
Well, I think that's very true. Everything they've said in their manifesto, they seem to have gone back on or added. The digital ID wasn't something I don't think was in their manifesto. And we're not going to cut the heating allowance for the pensioners, but they did that straight away. They've attacked the farmers with inheritance tax. They've increased the national insurance rates and taxation. So they really are having a really good go at people. The wealth creators, the guys who provide the jobs. And a lot of them are probably on the breadline to start with, because the Tories made such a mess of things. So they've just tipped them over the edge, I would imagine, in a lot of cases.
Politicians don't seem to understand that increasing taxes doesn't increase tax receipts, and actually sometimes the reverse can happen. When you reduce taxation, you increase tax receipts. And that's certainly something that is not seemed to be known. These people seem to be economically illiterate, and I'm just wondering if we need Mises in the actual universities and the Mises Institute and the Scottish universities to give a different side of economics. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, obviously the Laffer curve is, where you find the point of the sweet spot of taxation and trying to maximise taxation. I mean, why should we try to maximise taxation? Why shouldn't we reduce it? I think probably people who want the sweet spot on the Laffer curve to be under that in taxation terms, I think that's where we would certainly aim for. Maximising taxation, I don't actually see as necessarily a benefit, because it's still stifling things. And not giving the opportunity for people to grow themselves, which is really where we should be. University, I've just finished a 4-year degree from Glasgow University.
Well done.
And it was hard going so at the end. And I finished that in 2024. It was in theology and archaeology, and I did, I think, 3 or 4 years in psychology as well.
My friends just started that. I've told you that as well, just for the audience. Yeah. My friends just started your exact same or very similar degree. Yeah,
that's right. Well, they probably know all my lecturers that were I was there with, and a lot of them are very good. I enjoyed the course. It was very interesting. I wasn't business previously, but that became impossible, so I really couldn't do anything else other than go back to try and retrain. And I was considering, and I applied for Church of Scotland ministry. But that was rejected probably on account of my outspokenness, on social media. But I personally am a Christian. The ADF are not all Christians. There's a good few there, but some are not. And but they still, I always think that even though they're not Christians, they still are infected with Christian values, which have been part of this country for hundreds of years, and have really built the country. So even if they don't feel they believe in Christ, then I think they still have they're still infected by the culture, which is essentially Christian, inherently Christian, really.
Yeah.
Which is changing, of course, now.
Yeah. So, what's the lay out some policy? What you are going to do when you come in to power? What's the sort of headline grabbing? Are you going to, for example, allow people the right to buy their own council houses again? Would that be a policy for the empowerment of the individual?
I do think that would be a good idea, because I don't believe that the state would do a good job when they're involved really in anything. And it's definitely, I think Thatcher did a great thing. She empowered many people. She created wealth for many people in terms of their property values. So I do think there's definitely an argument for that. It's not a policy of the ADF's, but I would certainly agree with doing that. Other things, I think probably our main things is get the NGOs for the foreign NGOs offer back, WHO, WEF, probably UN, NATO even as well. I think they cause a lot of problems with. We shouldn't be involved in their arguments.
So would you say that the party was anti-globalist? They're an anti-globalist and pro-individualist party?
Very much so, yeah. Very much so. We love to cooperate with other countries, trade with other countries, but we don't want them telling us what our laws are and how we're supposed to be behaving, which is what they're doing at the moment, isn't it?
Well, I think the NGOs, people who are non-indigenous to the UK, are able to interfere through that, and I would think that should have made illegal that people are setting up these NGOs. But I think the reason it's not illegal is it's in cahoots with all the globalist parties, which will be the Lib Lab Con Party, the Greens, the SNP, the so-called Welsh nationalists, who are basically a globalist party, left-wing wokey wefter party, and even something like Sinn Féin, who you thought would be a nationalist party, is just a wokey wefter party, or a pro-globalist, progressive communist party now.
Yep, that's right. Well, I think they all seem to be going that way.
Sorry.
Yeah, they all seem to be going that direction. Which is really strange, if they want to build their own nation, either they've got no clue or they're just taking, bribes or whatever to impose policy on us. That's the way it looks. And I think a lot of the things that they're doing to us, really, they should have been out the door, resigning in shame at what they've done. A lot of things they've imposed on Scotland and the UK. But definitely, the foreign interference is something we're very strong about. I quite like Trump's tariffs arrangements, where he's charging tariffs and it is actually talking about getting rid of income taxes because he's generating enough through tariffs that he doesn't need them. Was one thing he's done there. So yeah, taxation is a real burden for everybody. Cost of living, obviously. Even the green net zero targets, that's pure just adding extra cost, extra burden, extra inefficiency into the system, and people at home can't afford to buy their messages or heat their homes because of these taxes which the government are imposing. And then of course you've got Starwar who's saying, we're saving everybody £150 a year. It's costing them a fortune in so many other ways. It's ridiculous.
And how are you going to attack the next Scottish election? You'll be standing in the next Scottish election. How are you going to get a coherent structure in Scotland? What is the things that you're looking to do just now?
Well, we're obviously involved in this Belmont Accord.
Do you want to maybe explain about that, Ken? I think the populace would like to actually understand what it is. Yeah.
Well, ADF, the Alliance for Democracy and Freedom, was set up to really pull in disparate parties who basically had the same essential ideas, political parties with 95% of the same policies. There might be a few nuanced differences, but there's no point in having all these parties. They might as well come together, fight as one to do some damage.
But they're
It
not
didn't work.
they're not merging, are they just now? There might be mergers on the cards, but they're not merging at this precise moment.
No. Well, that was the ADF when it was set up to do that. But then we launched the Belmont Accord, which meant that they didn't have to come and join the ADF or join with our party. They could be their separate party with their own policies, but they would still work together, have election pacts where we're not standing against each other, and in some cases we'll travel to the other party's constituency, and if there's a by-election on, we'll jump behind them, get leafleting, get out on social media, and do everything like that. So at the moment we've got the Belmont Accord. We've got 7 parties in there. We've got ourselves, ADF. We've got the Freedom Alliance. We've got the National Housing Party UK. We've got Crew First, which is a local party, but has done very well in standing candidates in Crew area. Got quite a few councillors, I believe. We've got, who else is in there? We've got the English Democrats, and we've got the Sovereignty Party, and who are both nationalist parties, but they still believe in 95% of what we believe in. The only difference is the nationalist unionist thing. And the last one is the Populist Party, led by Russell White.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's
the National Housing Party.
National Housing Party UK, that's right, yeah.
So it's quite interesting because people might not understand this. And they might not get this. So just to give people a heads up on this, you've got Sovereignty, who are a Scottish nationalist party who believe in, and I'll have the leader on speaking to him as well, being a nationalist party for Scotland, who want to be out of Europe and out of Westminster. So they're actually a proper nationalist party, unlike the SNP, who want to be governed by Europe. And you've got the English Democrats, who I believe are not quite a nationalist party, but probably believe in either a parliament or English rules for English constituencies, which is actually fair enough. So both of those tie in together, and you've also got British unionist parties in that as well, where they would be considered as old style British unionists. So it's a real eclectic mix of individuals, which on the back of it looks like the UK will at least go into some sort of federal structure with both the English Democrats down south and Sovereignty up here wanting different things. But the easiest way to square that circle from the Unionists, from the English Democrats, from the Scottish nationalists and the Sovereignty would be to have to start off with a federal structure. So are you going to back another referendum for Devo Max in the meantime for the ADF?
I think that's definitely the direction we want to go. Whether we do a referendum or not, I don't know. But I think it'd be difficult to do a referendum for Devo Max without having one for independence, probably.
No, you could definitely do it. You could do it. In fact, I think you could actually do if the AFD won. Yeah. The Westminster couldn't stop you doing a Devo Max referendum. They could probably stop another independence referendum by saying it was once in a lifetime, that's what was agreed. But you would probably have more latitude and have the right, if the ADF won a Scottish election, to have in the interim a Devo Max referendum. I don't think that they could stop that from a democratic point of view.
Yeah, I certainly. I mean, I'd be up for having that, but I think there would be huge pressure from the nationalists not to go that road, but just want nationalism. You know, so there'd be a huge argument for that.
Yeah, but the nationalists, the SNP, haven't done anything since the referendum in Alex Salmond. They've got no more powers to the Scottish Parliament, so they've failed and everything. All they've got is stupid policies that don't seem to be working. So they've not their raison d'etre is to get more powers members to the Scottish, whether it's be independence or anything else, with and I think a Devo Max solution would be successful. It wouldn't offend the unionists, and it wouldn't have a problem otherwise. So I think that might be the